This story is about a small dog named Chester, as you can see in the photo. How did we get him? Well, my wife used to go to the dog shelter and she would walk dogs on the weekend because they needed to get out, get some exercise, and have fun. It kept them sane, and she had a very warm heart when it came to animals. So she's walking dogs at this dog shelter. And then Chester, the dog you see in the photo here, came in. And so she saw him jumping up and down in the cage. And a while later, she checked in on him again, and he had cracked his back leg, his back hip, because he was jumping up and down in the cage. It became obvious that Chester needed a home real fast. So my wife asked around and said, well, is anybody coming to adopt him? Oh, yeah, we got 3 or 4 people coming in. And a while later, she checked again. And what happened? Did somebody decide to take Chester? No, nobody wanted to take him home. So my wife could see that Chester was going to break his hip again. He was jumping up and down all day long in the cage on hard concrete floor. And she felt sorry for him, that nobody wanted to take him home. So she decided she was going to adopt Chester because otherwise he was going to break his hip again. And he just needed to get out of that cage so badly. So she decided to bring him home for my birthday. She brought him home, and I looked at this dog and I thought, well, we've already got 2 dogs, or now a third dog. And I thought, I wasn't too impressed, uh, you know, but like many things in life, some things that start out seeming bad often turn out to be our greatest joy in life. I didn't like Chester very much because he was quite vicious. He was, according to the story my wife got from the dog shelter, he had been locked up in his cage for 12 hours a day. Hence his frustration at being in the cage and jumping up and down. And that's how he broke his hip. He couldn't stand it anymore. It was driving him crazy. And then his family decided to move, and they didn't allow pets in the new building. So Chester got dropped off at the animal shelter. Chester's parents were Russian, and by a fluke of chance, my wife's uh, grandmother was Russian. So she picked up a few Russian words, enough to be able to talk to Chester. And Chester, as you can imagine, being tied up or being locked up in a cage all day, was extremely frustrated because he had a lot of energy. And when a dog can't release that energy in healthy ways, running around and playing, it becomes very self-destructive to a dog and to others as well, as we'll find out in the story here. So whenever I went to discipline Chester like I would do with our other dogs, he would almost bite me. And I thought, oh, this is not good. We have to do something about this. So my wife, she was watching The Dog Whisperer, and we were trying to figure out how can we help him. And so The Dog Whisperer gave several techniques. Chester would charge at dogs that were 3 or 4 times his size. And we knew that if he didn't quit doing that, he was going to get badly hurt. And we didn't want that for him. So what the dog whisperer suggested was that when he misbehaves himself, that we are to reach over to the far side of his body, and try hold on to a leg, and then push him over. That way he won't be able to resist. And once he's down on the ground, we hold him down there like a dog would do. Dogs do this to say that kind of behavior is not acceptable. You're going to stop that. And so it was a way of getting through to Chester that this was not right, and he needed to stop that. Well, it took quite a few years. We had to be very vigilant. As soon as he started to go after another dog, we had to discipline him. And my wife was kind of concerned because I just started doing it automatically. And the thing you need to understand about this kind of discipline is that it needs to end in love. It needs to be something other than just bullying a dog and pushing him to the ground and holding him there. So what I would do is I would hold him down so that he couldn't move. And when he stopped resisting, then I would start petting him. I would get him relaxed, as if to say, trust me, you're going to be okay. And it took, like I say, quite a few years, but Chester learned that whenever he went after another dog, I was going to discipline him. And all he had to do was just lie down, relax, and let me pet him and love him. And when that was over, I would just get up and walk away with him on the leash. And he soon learned that this was a kind of behavior that we expected of him. Sometimes, however, he became really frightened with bigger dogs. So another technique that the dog whisperer suggested was to stand between him and the other dog and not let him see the other dog. So this was based on the idea that when a dog wants to keep another dog from playing with his toy, he will stand between that other dog and the toy. And in this way, it's a way of saying, that's my toy. You're not going to have it. That's mine. And so we started doing that. And we wouldn't allow him to see the other dog. He had to trust that we were going to keep him safe. While he couldn't see the other dog, he had to rely totally on us. And eventually, he started to understand we were not going to let anything bad happen to him. He didn't need to be afraid of the other dogs. And he would go for a while and he wouldn't charge at anyone. And as soon as he started charging at him again, we'd have to go right back to the discipline. And we did that every time he went to charge some other dog. So Chester needed a discipline. Being a very stubborn poodle, it sometimes can take a bit of practice, quite a few years, for him to get over it. And with our other two dogs who were well balanced, they added extra help to Chester to realize that he didn't have to worry, didn't need to be on the defense all the time. So we had Chester for quite a few years, and he became a very special dog to us because he changed so much for the better. He was actually a very good dog, a very kind dog. But until he got over his fear, he was very destructive in showing his anger at people or or at other dogs, he never harmed anyone, and we wouldn't allow that, which was fortunate for Chester because he could have been badly hurt taking on those bigger dogs. Many years later, Chester would be sitting on my chest, and I would just massage his neck and look deeply into his eyes, just like he is here. And he would stare back without blinking, without being distracted. And we began to feel that finally Chester had found a sense of peace and love in his life. And he would just sit there, and I would just massage him. And we became a much closer family. However, like most dog stories happen, eventually they get old and they get sick. We noticed Chester one day wandering around like he was almost drunk. He had trouble keeping his balance. And we thought, we better get him to the vet right away. And we have a vet that we go to. So we went there. They had x-rays done. And when we got the x-rays back, the doctor said, he's on his last legs. His lungs were full of all kinds of white spots on the x-rays. And we were wondering, how could he have gotten so sick so quickly? He was always a happy boy, eager for his meals in the kitchen. And the doctor said, the vet said, he will continue to struggle to catch his breath until he can't anymore. Well, our hearts sank. Chester had changed so much, and in that process, he also changed us as a family, and we loved him so much. In my religion of Eckankar, we have a spiritual master whose duty is to help with the animal kingdom. And so I knew we needed to do something to help Chester make his journey a little easier into his next life. It was time to euthanize him rather than having him suffer and not be able to catch his breath. So the vet came over. We laid Chester down on the floor, and I petted him, and the doctor administered the medication to put him to sleep. And I just kept petting him, telling him he was a good boy. And finally, the doctor gave him a lethal injection. And his leg twitched as the light went out of his eyes, and he left his body without having to suffer a great deal. Sometimes that's all we can do. Well, that night, I asked Mahanta, the living Ek master. The Mahanta is the spiritual side of a physical person. The living Ek master is the physical side. And this master exists in this world, in every age, to lead soul back home to God. And so I thought, I'm going to ask if I could hold Chester one last time. It wasn't to hold him back from where he had to go. I had experiences, memories of a past life in which I died. And from that, I learned that God loves soul more than I ever could, and to hold him back would cause me pain and it would cause him problems. You see, we have to go where love is. Death is a transition to love, but while we're alive, we do the best we can. So that night, I went to bed after making my request to hold him one last time. And then I had this amazing dream. In the dream, I was carrying Chester up and down a hallway in a hospital, it appeared to be. White walls, lots of rooms, and I was looking for an elevator to take him downstairs. You see, Chester wanted to reincarnate, become a new dog, and begin his lesson of love in a new life. He had learned a lot from us. And normally, what I expected to happen was that Prajapati, who takes care of the animal kingdom, would take him to the place that he needed to be, and that's what I had asked for. But when the dream started, I was the one who was taking him to where he needed to be. And I was doing my best, but I couldn't find my way downstairs. And so I'm going up and down halls, and I'm doing my best to help him go where he needs to be, where his heart wants to be. Every lifetime, we are moving closer and closer to God's love. And I knew that it was best for Chester to go where his heart desired rather than me trying to control the situation. And Chester suddenly started getting really heavy, like he felt like he was 50 or 60 pounds all of a sudden. And so I hoisted him up on my shoulder to carry him a little easier. And suddenly he turned into an orange Pomeranian. And I looked into his eyes, as I had often done when he was alive. And I realized those eyes are Chester's eyes. This orange Pomeranian is Chester and who he will be in his next life. At that point, the dream ended. I woke up in the morning and realized I had been given a great blessing, a great gift to hold him one last time. And that Chester loved me so much, even though as a dog he couldn't really say that, but he could say it with his eyes when I petted him and he looked right through me, at peace with himself and with a heart so full of love that he had gotten over his fears and he realized how much he was loved while he was alive. And that did not change after he had died and gone to heaven. And I realized that the love we had was an unconditional love. We just loved each other. I loved him because he changed so much for the better. And he loved me because I helped him to get past his fears. In my religion of Eckankar, we believe that love survives death, and this was proof to me. that it was very true. It was something that I had believed all my life, that no matter what happens, the love that we are survives death. And Chester had shown me just how precious that kind of an experience can be. Because now Chester had shown me a side of life that I didn't know. You see, we often do not know what lies beyond death. I had experiences of dying in the past, and for me, there was nothing that really bothered me from that, because I ended up in a place that was like golden sparkling mist, in which I found myself a small spark surrounded by many other souls, and the love there was incredible. It was more love than I had ever loved even myself. And that kind of an experience is why, when it was Chester's turn to go, I could let go of him. Because having gone through that experience, I would never have wanted anyone to hold me back from experiencing that greater love. And now it was simply Chester's turn to experience God's love and to go on many more amazing adventures in a new life. It's been years now, and I haven't seen Chester in my dreams, but I know he's where his heart is, where he loves to be. Even animals go to where they are loved. And love is the most important thing to me. Always has been, since my experience of that golden mist and of love so sincere that I had never experienced anything like that before. And like Chester, I'm here too, trying to get through this life and to learn how to give and receive love. Chester helped me to do that, and he also did the same for me. Animals are amazing. They can teach you how to love truly and unconditionally. Thank you, Chester, for all that you have taught me.